All right, so today we're looking at a brand new pattern that I've never folded before, and you're gonna get to see me fold it for the first time. So I'm using a 72 division, so that's from one side to the other side, triangle grid on a hexagon, and the grid lines are parallel to the edges. I'm a little bit out of breath because I just ran back up here. I was gonna have breakfast, but then my cat had an emergency. She's in a cone right now and managed to get her, well, let's just leave it at she had a litter box accident and also needed more food again this morning. But yeah, I'm gonna start exactly the same way as another pattern that I actually did a whole tutorial on, called Enveloped. The link to that is in the description if you want to check it out. So this is going to be very similar in the beginning, and then it's going to diverge. So that'll be fun. And I am keeping an eye on the chat, so feel free to pop in questions at any point in time. I'm putting in the closed hexagon twist in the center. And this is butcher paper instead of sky tone. So it's a little bit thinner, a little bit less stiff. Good morning, Chris. Glad you could make it today. And then from here, I'm putting in closed rhombus twists. And up to this point, like with these twists, these rhombi around the closed hexagon, this is the same as the sawtooth pattern from Advent of Tess, I want to say 2023. But then we're going to put more rhombus twists on the intersections of pleats from these rhombus twists. And that's going to be characteristic of one of the Advent of Tess patterns this year, which is Enveloped, the one that I have the longer tutorial for. But in Advent of Tess this year, I decided to have only whole twists, no partial twists. So that decision led to choosing to set up some of the rhombus twists on the outside as triangles instead. And I was trying to figure out, well, can you keep going with those as triangles? And it turns out you can, and that's what I'm folding today. So you can see I'm very much setting things up from the pleats, far from where the twist is, and then making sure that all of the pleats of the twist are in place. And those are triangle wraps under there. And then squashing the twist itself. As usual with these new pattern demonstrations, this is a demonstration, not a tutorial, although I do think that many of you will be able to fold this pattern if you've already folded the one that I taught with denser repeats, the enveloped pattern. So yeah, demonstration, not a tutorial, different zoom levels, although I will zoom a little bit more in. Just so you can see what is going on. So you can see we are zipping right along. And now flipping over on this side, instead of making these into triangles, I'm going to make them into rhombus twists. Open rhombi, to be precise. I'm going to open that up to have less layers as I fold. And then I'm gonna have an open triangle. And a triangle wrap. And I'm gonna go ahead and work my way all the way around here, just because I can. Before flipping to the other side to resolve some stuff. Chris, I just saw your question about the butcher paper. Yes, it does come in a roll, and by the time you've folded your grid, it lays really flat. Like, once you have all three grid directions, like at least one set of folds in each of the three directions, the rolled paper will lay very flat. Now, it might curl in the last direction that you divided the grid, but you don't really need to worry about the curl of the paper after a while. The other reason why this was really flat is because I cut out a bunch of these big hexagons and then left them to sit under a heavy weight for a while. So both gridding and pressing work to flatten the butcher paper. I had a lot of butcher paper grids sitting like over beside me at some point this summer, but they all got used in another project. Well, hi Early, glad you could join us. I'm working my way around this ring around the center, adding rhombi and open triangles. And you can repeat this with these twists in positions of rotational symmetry. But today I'm going to do it differently because I can. And because it'll be a direct repeat of exactly what I'm going to teach in Advent of Tess this year. So this is kind of a preview. Yeah, teeny tiny grid today. But that's one of the reasons why I'm using the butcher paper instead of the Skytone, because this butcher paper hexagon is larger than my Skytone hexagons, just from the size that the paper comes. So I get a little bit larger size with these. And in here, got a fold going back under the tip of my first rhombus. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the triangle at the same time. And the wraps for both of those. Got a little bit of place in here where a fold went slightly off grid, where there were those 3 plates stacked on top of each other, which is part of why I alternated pleats coming from the top and pleats coming from the bottom, so there wouldn't be one that has to cover the whole stack. Howdy, Spot. Okay, so far so good. Flipping over, the places where I have the compound wraps are going to become closed rhombi. Places where I have the triangle wraps are going to become closed triangles. And this is the difference between the different variations, is like what these twists become. So the baseline pattern that the tutorial is linked in the description for is for treating these open twists as positions of symmetry. And in that case, you're going to have both of these as closed rhombus twists. There's another pattern that turned out really nice that's going to be in the Advent of Tess ebook this year, where instead of making these triangles, you make them open rhombi, and then you get these like bars composed of open rhombi that actually align as you repeat the pattern. It's crazy. But today we're going to be treating kind of this whole thing that I've folded so far as the repeating motif, and the symmetry points are going to come out to these rhombi, which will become more clear in a second. But yeah, I had folded the demo piece for this day in Advent of Tess. I think it's like day 14 or 15. And it was like precisely this amount on a 24 fold grid. That's the other thing. We're doing 24 fold grids for most of the pieces to avoid partial twists or twists that are only partway on the paper. That means we can do all kinds of fun things with different arrangements of twists. And also, the second half is heavy on the hybrid hexagon twists. Okay, so that is all in place, and now we're getting into stuff that I have never folded before. This is a new tiling that I've never worked in before. So I'm gonna kind of go slow as I go through the next set of twists to make sure that I understand where everything is going. I think I'll start with the middle twist, or the middle pleat, because that's the one that's kind of defining where everything else goes. Although, yeah, there's some flexibility. So what I'm doing is this first set of parallel pleats, I'm just figuring out where stuff goes. And then in the next set of parallel pleats, I'll figure out the best order to fold it. So that little slit, that rhombus slit, is going to be a 2-fold rotational symmetry position, which means that I'm resolving this with 2 triangles. Good. I'm glad you're looking forward to Advent of Tess. And then this one is going to be an open rhombus. The corner is there. So that's a whole lot of pleat headed down into stuff for no good reason yet. Instead, I can lay it down this way for now. squash these triangle twists. And now I would really rather like work up these pleats instead of down, because if I have a pleat that heads this way, it's going to run into stuff. But here, there's not really a way to make the pleats run into stuff if I'm working down here. So and since I have a triangle sequence in here, I can go ahead and do triangles and wraps. Okay. Yeah. And this is going to be another triangle up here. This is where the paper choice is giving me a little bit of trouble. That's going there. So the question is, can I show the crease pattern for a particular thing? No, I don't give away my crease patterns outside of Advent of Tess, really. But I do sell them. Okay. So I have several patterns that are fitting the description. The mixed up rhombus, which I used to call the double rhombus. So there's double rhombus swirls, double rhombus stars, and double rhombus tucks, double rhombus hollow stars. There's a whole bunch of them. But now I'm not going to be showing crease patterns on here. Yeah, so folding on a light table, I've definitely had students do that. One of the considerations for me, at least with my current lighting setup, is whether my elbow can pass easily on top of the desk. So having an extra like chunk of setup is gonna really mess with the ergonomics. So I'm probably not gonna do the backlighting on top of the table for regular use. And So Sushanth, I'm happy to post photos of stuff on my Discord server, but I'm not going to interrupt what I'm doing in this live stream to find a particular pattern. And you can get to my Discord server in a couple ways. If you sign up for Advent of Tess, that's a very easy way in. So we saw with that last set of parallel pleats that setup was kind of difficult. So I'm going to go and do just one twist setup at a time here. See if that makes things any easier. Okay, yeah, this is a lot easier to set up. And we were talking about the Discord server. Basically, however you make your way onto my email list, like Tessellation Foundations, any of my other freebies, just going to my website and submitting a form. Really, any form you submit on my website will get you on my email list and eventually get you the link to the Discord server. And I'm happy to post photos of whatever patterns people want to see on there. You'll notice when I've been flipping the paper over to squash the closed triangle twists that I'm not squashing all of the triangle wraps. That's because one of them per edge is going to be a rhombus in the next ring around the center. So this triangle that I'm putting into place right now, that's actually a double open triangle. You can see it's bigger than the open triangle that's next to it. And it's required to be that size if I want to use these rhombus twists as positions of rotational symmetry. Because that's how the geometry works out. They're like, once you pick your center and your position of two-fold rotational symmetry, then the physical location of the position of three-fold rotational symmetry is already determined. So if you made a different choice for the rhombus, you could use a different triangle. And I'd mentioned earlier that some of these I'm turning into triangle twists. They're the ones at the corners of the double open triangle. For the cheapest paper in India, I'm not actually going to know what that would be since I'm based in the US. But my friend Sukanya has had a lot of success with banana paper, like a banana fiber paper that she dyes and treats with MC, and has folded remarkable things on that. So you can always find good paper no matter where you are. And she does get this banana paper in India. So that's probably your best bet. But you would definitely want to treat it with MC. And I'm not the person to ask about MC. But in general, a local paper is going to be cheaper than an imported paper. And you can find good papers wherever you are. You just might need to do some extra work to make them stiff enough to fold. Ooh. Yeah, light tables are definitely awesome for tessellations. And actually one of the things that was really helpful for some of my students is to, when they started folding grids, is to fold on some kind of light table, whether that was a tablet or other light table. Yeah, butcher paper is a good cheap one. Any kind of meat wrapping paper, I would think, would be pretty suitable for folding, but you're going to see a lot of variety. So it's not just like there's one thing called butcher paper and all butcher papers are the same. You just got to go and find a bunch of papers and test them out. And as for methyl cellulose, if there's like some restaurant stores, methyl cellulose is also an ingredient in fancy food. So it's just like a fiber that makes things gel up. So you could find it in like a restaurant store. Not necessarily a restaurant itself, but a store that sells supplies to restaurants. And that would probably be the cheapest place to find it. You could also find it in like a bookbinding shop, maybe. There's like fancy scrapbooking glues and stuff, but it's the same stuff. Yes. I'd say Skytone is the easiest for folding tessellations, with Taunt coming second of papers that can be found in an origami context. But there's going to be like different weights of butcher paper or craft paper. Craft paper is generic like brown wrapping paper. So yeah, you can find all kinds of generic papers that are suitable for folding. And even Skytone wasn't designed for folding. It was made for fancy envelopes and certificates and invitations and things. So there's lots of ways to repurpose things that you've found elsewhere and turn them into folding paper. I mean, Sushant, I can't tell you what an Indian person would or would not say. I have never been to India. But you can ask people who regularly use MC in India. Like if you go on the Origami Don Discord server, they would be able to tell you what MC or methyl cellulose is known as in restaurants, in India, yeah, whatever you want to know. Okay. So the durability, I mean, this is butcher paper without MC. It's a little bit fussy to work with, but it's definitely holding up well. Let's see. The next twists I want to do, I'm going to start on these plates. That's going to mean flipping over here. These are the same as these, and so I need another open triangle. Yeah, Stephen, the two-colored craft, I think that's mostly what Dirk Eisner uses for his folding, and he gets fantastic results. So it's one of those papers that I don't really see here in the US, but I've seen great results with it too. Then let's see, in here, I've done these. This is going to be, okay, coming into another rhombus down below. Just need to decide the order. Pink. Before I squash that, I need to figure out why it's not sitting flat. Let's Okay. May as well squash this one while I'm right here, being careful not to touch in there where it's 3D. I can squash. And so I'm mostly doing this ring from observation of what's come before, not having to pay too close of attention to the tiling. Like, I don't even have the tiling up. I have the crease pattern where I can see it, but I'm really not looking. You can see I'm really just looking down and looking at these other repeats. And so if I want to fold the next things in here, I think I'm going to end up with a partial hexagon. I'm going to try this out and see what's running together. This becomes, yeah, rhombus going into a partial hexagon that will sit and wait for the next ring. And then that is going to end up being a rhombus with its tip there. So I may as well go ahead and fold it. But wait, that one's going to just hang out, wait for the next round, because that would be sending a pleat back in. But now I have this pleat set up. Okay. Looks like you already have a favorite paper then. And from here, just gonna hold that straight through because I'm going to open it up again immediately and it's not interfering with anything. And then all of these overlaps are getting resolved on this side. Ooh. Yeah, that sounds like a fun paper to use. It also, so anything at a college supply store or any like specialty artist store is probably going to be more expensive than what we can find by repurposing things made for other reasons. So if you're going for price, you might not want the fanciest things, but if you want to work with really nice materials, then you're going to need to pay for it. So we're making really good progress. What was it I wanted to do next? Oh yeah. Joel Cooper's Rosette Medallion. No, really by the time I had the skill to be reverse engineering a lot of Joel Cooper's stuff, I was already designing my own. And so I really stopped reverse engineering a bunch of stuff when I started making my own designs. And right now, I make more designs than I have time to fold. Like I have over 100 designs that I've made crease patterns for, but not folded yet. Well, technically that's not true. There's 100 in the list, but about 45 of them have been folded, just not in Tessellation Garden yet. So I have not spent hardly any time reverse engineering things in the last couple years. Study 6. I haven't heard of that one. But yeah, Joel Cooper does really amazing stuff. And I have folded several of his designs. I think, if I remember correctly, one of them was in the Origami Olympiad that I participated in a couple years ago. We're getting pretty far along for 1 hour of folding. It's been 50 minutes so far. But yeah, you can start to see the new rings taking shape. And so I need to do this triangle. One of the really convenient things about this tiling is that even though it uses pseudo-tiling breaks, the repeats are actually aligned with the pseudo-tiling breaks, which makes it a lot nicer to fold, or rather a lot easier to create a piece where the repeats are aligned with the edge and you have a border, which is usually not possible in these pseudo-tiling break pieces. And I can tell that the repeats are aligned with the pseudo-tiling breaks even without looking at the tiling diagram by seeing that these hexagons are in place with 2 pleats instead of 3. And that means they're at the very corner of, or all the corners of this ring around the center. Okay. So I've completed this ring around the center. Next up, that's going to be a closed rhombus. And I think I'm okay folding through here, not creating any extra creases. Put that in place. Very easy to fold what you think is on a grid line, and it actually just creates a new fold on this paper. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a stack of acrylic pieces, mostly squares, that I use to flatten my tessellations. Adding another pleat to this hexagon. This rhombus is just going to hang out as a 3-way intersection for now. That hexagon will get fully folded by the end of the ring around the center. Here we get an open triangle. that rhombus in place. This hexagon gets fully folded. And I am gonna stop at the 1 hour mark. Just a heads up. There's more that I need to do today. And now rhombus. So you can kind of see how someone could get just sucked into folding and folding and folding and ignore everything else around them. And rhombus. And triangle. So I'll go one more edge as I'm working my way around the center here and call it there for today. So any last questions or comments as I go? One thing I'm making sure of with these hexagons is that they're actually being rotated all the way around instead of staying back twisted like they were to originally set up with the two pleats coming together. I'm being very careful as I'm running a plate through other plates to not let any of those original pleats open up. This right here is doing a triangle wrap into an area that already had a triangle wrap. And then I'm just pushing the pleat over one space and laying it down flat. For the rhombus, that probably would have been useful with the other rhombi earlier that we were folding, that I was folding while the open rhombus was sitting waiting on the other side. And I would say this piece has another maybe hour of folding left until it's finished. But like I said earlier, I'm gonna head out and finish that folding a bit later. So that's as far as we're gonna get today. Happy folding, everyone. And if you want the crease pattern for this, that'll be in Tessellation Garden by the end of the week, and in the Advent of Tess 2024 ebook in the next couple weeks. I'll make sure to put a link down below when it's ready. So happy folding, everyone, and see you